Hi, my name is David Brown. I'm a mental health therapist, and my wife Betty and I have been going to the house for a few years now. I recently participated in an online discussion involving Chad and several members of the house who are professional counselors. During the call, I mentioned to Chad that I'd received a number of calls from existing as well as new clients reporting an increase in their emotional expression of anger, fear, sadness, and depression. I mentioned to Chad that often these strong feelings can be triggered by current events in one's life, such as an extended period of isolation and/or uncertainty, similar to what we're going through right now, that trigger memories of previous episodes involving stress or other crises. These experiences can leave a person feeling overwhelmed, out of control, or feeling that the meaning and value of their lives is somehow in doubt or being questioned. At Chad's suggestion, I agreed to put together this short video. I hope it will prompt further reflection and discussion among those that view it. There has been increasing attention in the media and literature recently being paid to symptoms associated with depression and anxiety in the last several years. Far less attention is paid to the emotion of anger and the reasons why some people seem to express more anger than others would consider normal. I grew up in a family where only one person was allowed to express anger, and it wasn't me. I was too young to view this person's regular explosive anger as anything other than scary and dangerous, and something to be avoided at all costs. I was too young to recognize the anger as possibly a symptom of PTSD, which can reflect an intense sense of vulnerability and fear of not having an adequate level of control that a person can believe as necessary to maintain emotional and psychological safety. The challenge for most of us is that if we have someone in our lives, or more significantly in our immediate family, with angry outbursts, a common response is to try to avoid, deny, or challenge and try to attack them in order to bring the behavior into submission. Unfortunately, such strategies are inevitably a means to manipulate the person into stopping the behavior or minimizing its impact on us, and it seldom has the desired outcome. Now, to be clear, my comments on this subject are not intended to be relevant in circumstances where the expression of anger includes physical violence, or for that matter, any situation where the level of anger is significant enough to leave the receiver feeling worried about their safety. My point is that anger is often viewed at face value, and there can be a failure to consider the underlying motivation of the person expressing that anger. They may be having a strong reaction to feelings of vulnerability, powerlessness, worry, or a sense of emotional disconnection from their closest and most intimate relationship that leaves them feeling abandoned, unsupported, and alone. It can also be an automatic response to events in the present that trigger memories and feelings related to previous traumatic events. Sometimes our response to someone's angry outburst is to seek distance from that person or minimize, at least in our own minds, the importance of what happened. We may distract ourselves by thinking or doing other things to distance ourselves from whatever upset feelings the angry outburst may have triggered in us. However, my professional experience is that distancing strategies may actually exacerbate the initial experience of the person by adding a sense that they are being further abandoned, rejected, ignored, and devalued. It also sets up a stronger likelihood that the same cyclical pattern of angry outburst, followed by avoidance and denial, followed by another outburst or even an escalation in the intensity of the outburst as a means of trying to get the other's attention or to have their needs for greater attachment be met. The person who receives the anger can build a wall of resentment and hurt that further contributes to the relational disconnect, hurt, a sense of victimization, and justified judgments. These feelings further lead to alienation and relational distancing. Such patterns, if not addressed, can increase the likelihood of further disconnect until there is a real possibility of complete shutdown or relational termination. This raises the inevitable question of how else can we respond to such behavior when we recognize that it has become a predictable and well-entrenched pattern that is destructive and troubling. At this point, I think it worthwhile to remind ourselves of an often quoted question. What is the definition of insanity? The answer being, doing the same thing but expecting a different outcome. The point being that such powerful patterns of behavior do not change by pretending they aren't happening or by distracting ourselves. In this situation, we may never quite get to the point of courageously acknowledging and addressing the issue to hopefully find a way to effectively address the underlying cause. Now, to be clear, I do not recommend that you try a process of inquiry into what lies under a loved one's anger while they are in the middle of an explosive anger episode. When a person is triggered by memories, emotional states, or other underlying factors, it is extremely unlikely that they will be able to access the contemplative, rational part of the brain. In my experience, it tends to be better to wait until the person is once again in a non-reactive, emotionally neutral place in the ongoing interpersonal pattern. The patterns I'm referring to can be extremely difficult to alter, even when the person on the receiving end of the anger does their best to be patient and understanding. Part of the challenge in bringing about change often needs to consider that the person on the receiving end often contribute their part in how the pattern unfolds. Both members of the relationship may contribute to the explosive outcome, and thus both parties may well need to alter aspects of their relational pattern. Sometimes such patterns may not be amenable to change without the assistance and support of a neutral third party, such as a friend, family member, or professional therapist. A key takeaway from this talk is that keeping difficulties hidden is unlikely to lead to the resolution of the underlying issues. Take the risk to share what is going on inside to help you figure out how best to move forward. I hope this has been helpful. Take care.